Welcome back to the PricePlow podcast. Today, I have another friend on the podcast. This has been a fun week of announcements, and I couldn't be more excited to share this information. It's been coming for a little bit. Ike kept pushing me back. We're finally allowed to talk about this. Ike, thank you so much. Welcome to the PricePlow podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Ben, obviously big fan of you, man, and the boys over there. So honored to be a guest, and really excited to share some really big news.
Cool. So, Ike, if you don't know Ike, you don't know what you're doing with your life in the supplement industry, but Ike's been around. He's done some amazing things. He's accomplished some really cool stuff. And your skill set is actually really interesting because it covers a lot of different areas, which is pretty impressive for this industry. A little bit of background. I'll let you do your background if you want to. You can do better than I do.
Yeah, as you know, I can go on a roll here, so I'll try to keep it short for our followers here. But as Ben said, in other words, I'm an old dog in the industry. Been in the game pretty much since 2000, I think 2005. A lot of you people probably watching right now, we're still in middle school, maybe high school back in 2005. But I was entering into the supplement game. Long story short, I was a baseball player, collegiate baseball player all my life, really heavily in sports. I was undersized, got into weight training, learned about supplements. By 18, 19, I was hardcore into supplements and training, and I wanted everything that I could take back then. And I basically started with a company called VPX Redline, which back in the day, now probably most known for you all as Bang Energy out there. But back in the day, we didn't have Bang. Started there in 2005, 2006. No industry experience, but I was a hardcore supplement guy, like probably most of you all. And kind of entered into that business. And, you know, what's interesting back then, I have these conversations all the time. If you look back in those time frames, there was only like 10 brands, if you think about it. There wasn't all these brands that everybody talks about. I mean, back then, you know, probably still my favorite all-time story in the supplement game is BSN. As a kid that grew up down in Boca where BSN started, and in my mind, what those guys did and took a supplement company from nothing into the monster they created. I mean, they were the coolest, baddest supplement brand you could think of back in those days. Obviously signing Ronnie Coleman at the peak. You know, he had his own clothing line. You know, it was crazy back in the day. So they were obviously a big company. Rich Gaspari, friend of mine, he's been around forever. They were big back then. VPX, we actually did some damage back at VPX back in the day. NO Shotgun, NO Synthesized, and some proteins and things like that. But there wasn't a ton of brands. So we were kind of competing with big monsters in the game. I worked there up until 2012. So I was there about 5 or 6 years. Won't bore you with the details there. We'll just say, you know, unfortunately it didn't work out. And I actually got offered, I got presented an opportunity to kind of start my own company. And basically do it with a bunch of friends of mine who in my mind have been in the trenches with me for the past, 7 years. And unfortunately, we had an opportunity basically to come in and kind of take over a pre-existing company, which was owned and operated by actually what I would say is probably one of the nicest bodybuilders of all time. For any IFBB Olympia fans out there, I still think he's one of the heaviest guys ever to step on stage at the Olympia. That's Art Atwood, if anybody remembers. He was an absolute monster on stage. I think he probably weighed in 304, 305 on stage. The guy was a beast. And he had a little supplement company called Professional Supplements. I don't know when he started it, but it was, prevalent back in 2009, 10. And I actually remember this because I was a consumer of his products. I was taking his Pure Carbolin back in those days. And it was when carbs were really popular, and Pure Carbolin, I mean, it was the shit back then. Like if you were in this sport and if you were a retailer, you probably remember this, you could not keep Pure Carbolin on your shelves back in that time. And Art really made a dent. So that was probably his most known product. Unfortunately, and God bless Art, he had passed away September 11, 2011. At that point, the company was kind of inherited by his sister, obviously not from the supplement industry. So long story short, kind of a unique path kind of opened and the door opened, and we had an opportunity to kind of, go over there and recreate and start our own company. And me and about six guys who were at VPX decided to move over for a lot of reasons and take this opportunity. My business partner at that company, he actually used to own a company called Lone Star Distribution. Some of you old dogs in the industry, that used to be probably the number 2 competitor to Europa Sports. They had a great business, but TJ Humphreys was one of the owners of that business. And so basically we all kind of partnered up and said, hey, let's start our own company. We basically took the nuts and bolts of what Professional Supplements was, and literally we started over. I remember flying out there for the first time. We sat in a little office over in McKinney, Texas, and basically said, "What the f do we do now?" We had a warehouse of some products under Still Professional Supplements. Some cool things. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of the product called iLoad, which Pro Sup still makes today. Well, that was one of Art's original products. We have never changed that product. What's interesting to me is everybody's talking about these GDAs now, right? These glucose disposing agents out there. Well, that's what iLoad was. Art invented that in 2005. Like, he was so ahead of the game, with some of these products. He had a couple fat burners. DMA was still legal back in the day, believe it or not. So we had some pure DMA capsules, which I wish I could take right now, to be honest with you. But we literally, we brought in a graphic artist came in, and he basically had a couple different looks, different logos and names. And we saw the one with the P and the S and the red and Pro Subs, like, that's our new logo. That's what we're going to be called. I remember going in the warehouse, unbottling some products and actually pouring the pills back into our new red bottles. We'd hand wrap the labels. Literally, it's called a startup, There was 6 of us, and we had been through a lot at that time, the 6 of us at that prior company. It was, we had a lot of down moments. So we were we call family. We were a tight group of guys. So we basically had at that time, what I would say is probably the best sales reps in the industry. I basically moved over I had Jason Arntz, IFBB Pro bodybuilder at New Jersey. I had Ron G, who actually is an IFBB Pro bodybuilder out of North Carolina. Had a couple guys in Texas. Me, JT, and Mike G were there also. We lived in Florida. We had TJ in Texas. So we kind of had some really, really good people when we started it. And we just started humping it, man. I actually remember this in that same week. Believe it or not, Professional Supplements didn't even have a pre-workout, which, still probably one of the biggest, if not biggest, categories out there. So we decided we wanted 2 pre-workouts. I don't exactly remember why, but I remember being in the room and I had a little ink board there, and I kind of wrote pre-workout 1 and pre-workout 2 on the board. And we kind of started going around the name of what should we name these things? What should we call them? JP actually yells out, "Why don't we call it Jekyll and Hyde?" And we all kind of looked at each other like, "Wow, that's genius." We didn't know if those names were available. We had to look them up, and they were available. But if you guys don't know the story, it's about basically a doctor/scientist who's got multiple personalities, and he turns into a monster. It's one of his personalities, which is Mr. Hyde. So I kind of took the story into developing the formula of the 2 products at the time, because at that point, no one, as far as I remember, no one had made and pushed the envelope to a 400 milligram caffeine pre-workout. And I remember, at those times, I remember obviously when Jack 3D came out, right? That kind of revolutionized the industry with pre-workouts, right? The ultra concentrate, super small micro dose, and, it's all you need and you get whacked up, obviously. But I remember when BPI, because I had some friends that worked over there, they had come out with a product called 1MR. And they basically upped it. I think they went up to 300 milligrams of caffeine with a ton of DMAA. And I remember taking 1 scoop of that stuff, and like, I was good for a long time, So I was kind of looking. I said, you know what? Let's just go 40. Let's go 400 milligrams of caffeine, 50 mg of DMAA, and 3 mg of Yohimbe, and let's just go big. And that became Mr. Hyde. But at the same time, we're like, you know what? There's a lot of people that maybe are a little bit older or more stimulant sensitive, and we saw, let's make something that's kind of the opposite of what Mr. Hyde is, a lower caffeinated pre-workout that focuses more on pump. And back then I used things like agmatine, norvaline, glycerol, in that product. And we basically created Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Long story short, man, we brewed that company for 8 years. We got it to over 50 million bucks. We ended up actually selling the majority of the business to a private equity group back in 2016. I would say, it was probably the best times of my life. I mean, Ben, I know you've been at some brands, but there's nothing like building a brand from the ground up.
No, it's the most fun part.
Yeah, it's not easy. People think it's easy, but it's not easy. But I remember little things like, I think it was year 2, we were in Vegas at the Olympia, and I was in my room, and I remember looking out the door, and I saw somebody walking on the strip, which would look like a big P and an S on the t-shirt. And I was like, there's no way that person's wearing a Pro Sup shirt. And then, 5 minutes later, they were close enough, and it was a Pro Sup shirt. And that feeling you get, it's like, wow, like, you got somebody in Las Vegas wearing your logo. That logo didn't even exist a year ago. So, those were really fun times. I decided to part way from Pro Sups at the end of 2019. I got presented a really cool opportunity with a brand called Rise. which I worked with last year with a guy named Nick Stella, really super smart digital guy, really strong direct-to-consumer brand. But I've recently moved on from there and entered into something which we want to share with you, which I think is probably going to be more exciting than what we've done at Pro Supps, and kind of the alignment of stars. I mean, things happen in the universe for weird reasons, and this is a really, really cool opportunity. So I'll leave it at that for now.
Yeah, I'm super excited about it. I think I stuck my claim earlier this year saying that in 2021 AP was the place to watch, and that was actually before I even knew that you were going there. Ironically, when you called me, like, you called it, man.
The universe was in your ear. The universe was in your ear, man. I mean, I don't know what the odds are on that, but you hopefully make some money on that one.
Yeah, so it's a pretty cool opportunity. I'm excited to see you guys there. Obviously, I've known Caesar, DT, a little bit of the team for about a year now, but it's awesome to see you coming over because you're a creative mind. You also know the industry really well. DT has some years in the industry, but Caesar's new to supplements. So it's kind of a very interesting combination of people. You guys seem like you've built out an incredible headquarters. We can all see behind you. And there's lots of expected.
For sure. So a little background on Caesar, and I know he'd love to get on our podcast and share his story. He actually has an unbelievable story of how he started, and he's pretty much self-made. I mean, came from nothing, and he's built a hell of a business in a lot of different industries at the end of the day. But the Alpha Prime brand, which I'm going to say is the mother brand here, which is Alpha Prime, or AP in short, they actually started with a clothing company about, I think it was November 2017. So probably about 3 years ago, they started Alpha Prime Clothes. And the long story short on that was, Caesar one day was at the gym working out, and he just, didn't feel like the clothes in the industry fit really well. Caesar's from Italy. So if you guys know about, Italian clothing and menswear, everything's tapered, nice fit. He comes from that. Just didn't feel like the fitness clothes in the industry fit, kind of had that tapered type of cut. So he decided to start Alpha Prime and started his clothing brand. Shortly after that, he actually, and not many people know this, but this is really interesting. He started what's called Alpha Prime Sports. And this is a business where they actually focus on team sports. So right here in this building, and we're going to give all your viewers a tour. We're actually going to have Ben fly to headquarters when this place is done, and we're going to shoot some awesome content. But right here in this building, let's say, for example, Ben, you've got your daughter or your son plays soccer, and they need uniforms for their team. You could show up at the door here and say you need 15 uniforms, numbers on the back, names, and they'll stamp them right in the back. Cool. So, they do everything from uniforms, and believe it or not, again, being a former athlete, they've got Alpha Prime batting gloves, Alpha Prime baseball bats, and this stuff looks like, Under Armour, Easton, the stuff you'd buy at Dick's or some of these other places. It's top level type stuff. Awesome. That business does really well on the sports side. So I don't know if there's anybody that plays men's softball. I've had quite a few people text me when they saw that logo and say, "Is that the same logo that makes these uniforms in my men's softball league?" So they do really well with men's softball. They make a lot of the uniforms for the travel teams or even the local teams out there. So that business does really well. So then Caesar wanted to basically get into supplements, and didn't kind of know the right approach to go with that. And I've actually known Caesar for about a year and a half. Seen him in my gym. He trains at a couple gyms that I train at down here. Super nice guy. We'd always catch up. I'd talk about some advice, and because I was kind of always at another supplement company, there really wasn't the opportunity that existed at that time frame. But to back the story a little bit, so they basically released a supplement brand called AP Sports Regimen in November of last year. So it's brand new. I would say it's a startup at this point. Obviously Thanksgiving, then you got Christmas, and last month is January and New Year's. So kind of brand new. One of the guys that actually started Pro Supps with me, his name, and you guys heard him in the Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde story. His name's JP Lanza. He actually took a job here at Alpha Prime in November of last year. So he was one of the first guys. You mentioned DT. I've actually known DT for probably about 4 or 5 years. Obviously, when he was at BPI, and kind of being in the industry, super smart guy. Having him in this business is great. So kind of presented the opportunity, and I met with Caesar last month in January, and he basically said, I want to create $100+ million supplement brand. He wants to create a brand that resonates with, all demographics, but that is premium, but also affordable. And when you guys hear Caesar's story, this is one of the things that'll resonate with everybody. When Caesar was growing up, he was poor. he didn't have a lot of money. And, you know, he started working at a pizza place at 13 in New York just to put food on the table. But he only had about 5 pairs of clothes growing up at this time. That's all he could afford. So in his, you know, he wants to basically, and as you guys know, when you're buying cheaper stuff, they just don't last as long. So in his mind, he wants to make really good products, whether it's clothing, supplements, whatever it is, at an affordable price that people can afford and appreciate and have these type of items. And that's kind of the motto of what we want to do here. And we're going to dive a lot deeper into what AP is, AP Sports Regimen, Alpha Prime, how everything cohesively works together. You know, you guys can kind of see a cool little logo in the background there, which I think is awesome. You know, that's kind of the one of the first elements you need in starting a brand at the end of the day. So met with Caesar a couple weeks ago. He offered me an opportunity to come over here and basically run the ship for these guys, use that experience that I learned in those 15 years. And straight up, man, we've all made mistakes. I've made mistakes. You know, we've all made mistakes. But I would say growing a brand at Pro Supps, I learned a lot. And not just sales. I mean, we all kind of know who the retailers are and, you know, the international stuff. But you're talking supply chain, forecasting, accounting, warehouse, logistics. There's so much that goes into this stuff to build a brand. And especially today where direct-to-consumer online e-commerce brands thrive. That's a whole different world. And straight up, man, that's not me. You know, that whole digital world and everything that's going on. But we're going to bring some people in here that do know it. And I brought probably what I would say, he's probably the most creative person I've ever worked with in my life. His name is Joseph Rojas. He was my head designer at Pro Supps. He is joining us here at AP Sports Regimen officially. Outside of our buddy, Mr. Greg Hilton, I would say Joseph's probably the most creative guy. And I think the world of Greg. That guy's a badass, obviously.
It really is.
But in order to bring to life what is in my mind and put and share with the world, I need somebody that can do that. And Joseph is here. So what's cool about this opportunity is I get to work with a couple of guys that have been in the trenches with me in the past, who also gained a lot of experience in those businesses where we get to work together. And you mentioned it. I mean, straight up, this is the nicest corporate office I've ever been in. Not that I've been in a lot of corporate offices, but Caesar and his team has done a phenomenal job with this place. You know, it's probably about 6 weeks from being done. And, you know, don't worry, everybody will kind of get an idea of what this place looks like. The irony, and there's a lot of irony in this, but back at Pro Supps days, just so everybody knows, I live in South Florida, you know, in Fort Lauderdale. And when we started Pro Supps, we had an office here in Florida where 6 of us used to work out of. Well, that office is a 2-minute walk from where I'm sitting right now. So I know I took that drive for 8 years. I know exactly how to get there. You know, I wouldn't be shocked if I actually pull into the old where the Pro Supps office used to be a couple times. But again, it's the same area. Just so happens that this place is built. This opportunity presents itself. And I get to work with some guys that have done it before. And at the end of the day, man, Caesar's, when you hear his story, you know, you'll wonder why. I mean, that's the type of guy you want to, you know, get in there and build something with. And we've got a great opportunity here. I think the industry is ready for a new brand. You know, and of course, there's always new brands popping up every single day. But I mean, a legit new brand does things the right way. You know, we talk about content, we talk about stuff digitally, but you know, whether you're focusing on retailers, whether you're focused on international business, how do you thrive with all these different channels of business? And that's where hopefully I can use my experience to create some systems here where we can offer certain things to everybody. Probably one of the biggest things for me personally is I'm really integrated with manufacturers at this point. I've been blessed to work with a lot of different groups over the years. So being able to create products that we feel are needed in the marketplace and be very nimble, that's a big thing too. You know, as brands continue to grow or private equity maybe gets involved into their business, the ability to be nimble and change really goes out the window. And as you know, Ben, brands that are killing it right now, like you got to be fast.
Yeah.
This industry moves really, really fast. So I think we're going to be able to do those things here. But no, super excited.
Yeah, I think you had a really good point. The nimble thing was big, but before you said that, you said that the industry is ready for a new brand. At the end of last year, we were talking about who performed really well in 2020. It was pretty obvious who was, you know, up at the top, who was growing. But a lot of people were saying like, yeah, I think 2021 is gonna be the same. I don't see anyone else coming out of the woodwork. And so I think that's a pretty good sign that it's time for a new brand to come in and shake things up, which I'm really excited for.
For sure. And at the same time, let's be honest, this industry is tough from an innovation perspective, because at the end of the day, most of us are selling pretty much the same stuff to the same people around the same cost, right? Flavoring obviously can change, but from an ingredient perspective, we all kind of have the same database of ingredients that we get to use and choose and pick from. But I feel like there's a lot of opportunities in white space and categories that a lot of brands don't focus in. And I want to explore some of those opportunities and do things a little bit differently. I'm a big delivery system type of guy. So as we talk about delivery systems, and convenience obviously is growing and growing and growing. So is there a way to do some more convenient options of taking your favorite type of supplements, and looking into some different methods there? I'm working with some companies overseas right now that have some really cool, innovative delivery systems that have never been seen before ever. They've actually invented the machines to fill these type of delivery systems. That's kind of where I'm going to focus on. Obviously brands like, what Dan and those guys done at Ghost, I say it to everybody, they've done the best job at branding that's ever been done in our industry. Everything those guys do is top notch. A lot of good companies out there. So not just, of course, we're going to make premium products, at certified manufacturing facilities that's tested, third-party tested. But that's also premium. We're not going to cut corners. We're going to make premium stuff, which usually entails a little bit of a higher retail at the end of the day. But at the same time, we're going to incorporate that lifestyle of the brand as well, because we do have a pretty significant clothing brand that we can tie into this thing, and create a culture. We're going to create a pack in this industry where when we show up to a gym or we show up to a show, you'll know exactly who we are and how we're rolling in.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. One of these days, I want to get out and I want to be in that pack when you show up to the gym. You guys got some big dudes on your team. Got some real people to reckon with.
No, for sure, and that's just going to continue to grow with us as we, as everybody knows, or not everybody, but I would say most people that built the brand before you can even start to build products and a lot of that stuff, you need to understand what the brand is. Mm-hmm. Who are we? Why? Why do we exist? What's our purpose at the end of the day? And as you can dive into that and create that following, that authenticity at the end of the day to get people to gravitate the brand, and then the message. There's so many different platforms today, whether it's, YouTube, TikTok, which, there's probably a lot of people out there hating on TikTok and young kids dancing, but guess what? #1 app in the entire world right now. And I know people that are crushing it on sales in TikTok right now. So, you got to be, again, being nimble, and if guys like me or you don't understand it, we bring people in that do understand it, right? To get on those platforms. So we got a lot of work to do, not for sure, but I'm blessed to have an opportunity to work with some great people like Caesar and Nicole and DT and JP and Joseph that are here. We've got some awesome video guys in Christian, photography guys in Yoel. So the team is here, and that's what's really unique about this opportunity, because everybody says, Ike, start your own brand. I mean, I've been hearing that for 5 years, right? Me and you, Ben, probably know, can we go get products formulated and, manufactured, but then what? Like, what's your go, you need money to dump into marketing to get that thing off the ground and going. Here, we're blessed with all the resources that we need to really grow a company and make a lot of noise very fast. And obviously PricePlow is going to be a big part of that. As we continue to grow, Ben's going to get a lot of exclusives in terms of new innovation, sampling, trying flavors, some behind the scenes stuff, content. Everything's about content today, and we're going to do a lot of it.
Yeah, I'm excited to get down there. One thing that you said, you're talking about, everyone asks, when are you going to make your own brand? We get asked it all the time. I'm sure you get asked like on a weekly basis. Yeah. Something about having a team together is a lot more inspiring to create a brand. You might have concepts in your mind, but once you have a group of people in front of a whiteboard and you're talking it over, like it's way more conducive to creativity. Very rarely do you see one person with an idea that comes to fruition.
Absolutely. I mean, you need different feedback. Everybody's, has a different mindset, in which ultimately could lead you into the right direction. Bring it back to that Pro Sub story. We're sitting around that table and we're all naming names of pre-workouts, and there were some really bad ones. TJ, actually, I always make fun of TJ on this because he was yelling out some bad names like 190 octane and jet fire, and it's like, so we banned him from naming products. But because of that session, JP just thought of Jekyll and Hyde. And whether you're a Pro Subs advocate or not, I still would say those are some of the best named products that you can have in pre-workouts, right? Hyde itself is, a $50 million brand today. So, but you're right, having that team, and there's something to be said about working with people you like. Last year, unfortunately, I was here in Florida and Rise was in Texas, but I basically had to work from home as a lot of people have had to do because of COVID and other reasons. But I like going to the office. I like being around a team. Like I like that culture and that atmosphere. So I enjoy it. So again, really blessed for the opportunity here. I promise you guys, everybody out there, we're gonna have a lot of exciting stuff and different. I think that's the key word, different stuff that we do here. Because, you know, we're open to anything at this point. And I think there's a lot of different directions we can go. You know, internationally, Ben, you know, I'm really, you know, I've got a lot of great relationships overseas. So you're going to see this brand grow internationally very quickly. But, you know, don't be surprised if we've got some canned beverages and, you know, some other convenient stuff by the end of this year. We're moving fast.
Yeah, I saw a little bit of R&D on your story the other day. We're excited for it.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Well, we're looking forward to it. I guess in the coming weeks, hopefully we can set something up, get down to what part of Florida is the actual office in?
It's actually what's called Sunrise, Florida. So from flying directly into Fort Lauderdale Airport, 15, 20 minutes.
Perfect.
So pretty easy.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we're looking forward to
Florida
it.
right now is kind of Florida's the free zone in America right now. So
yeah.
No, you know, very little masks and everything like that. So if you guys want to come in, for sure.
We're looking forward to it. So we'll figure that out at some point soon. But wanted to congratulate you on to announce Ike's moving over to AP Sports Regimen. We're excited to see a lot in 2021 with you guys. Is there anything coming that you can tell us about to look forward to in the next 2 months?
Yeah, working on a couple pre-workout options, obviously, to get us in the game there. Some liquid products to kind of, you know, get us in the game on that category. I would say probably in the next 90, 120 days, we'd love to release time bearing and manufacturer capability wise, but I would say 5 to 10 new products. So
Perfect.
We're going to move fast. And, you know, there's some categories that we're voided right now that we're going to get into and play. But it's also about doing it the right way. It's not just throwing something in a bottle, you know, and throwing a label on it. So it's finding a way that we can do it and do it right and different.
Awesome. Well, we're looking forward to it. Hopefully we can get some baggies of samples coming up soon and we'll get moving.
Absolutely. Yep, for sure. Well, I appreciate all the support and looking forward to, you know, making that, what do you call it? That, your brand of the year nomination.
Oh, yeah.
Looking forward to making that look for that come true.
Looking forward to it. All right. Thanks so much.
All right, buddy. All right, Ben. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Welcome to PricePlow.